Hello duelists, it is your boy Winster and I am back at it again with another video. I hope everyone watching is having an amazing day, and as always, thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. But before we get started on today's video, I need to give a special shout out to my YouTube channel members. Shout out to Thomas Mead, Why Me, Staying Young, Anthony Looney, Devin Bender, Leo, Jared, El Compa Gabi, Quick, Jay, Hunter, Andrija, Veggie, Ubel, Yu-Gi-Oh, Nana Bread, Steve Fox, and Josh McFarland. I appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much. For those wondering, when you become a channel member, you guys get early access to all full videos. You guys get a shout out on every single full video, and you guys get to set up games with me on Master Duel Yu-Gi-Oh Pro at a time that best works for both of us. If you guys can't become channel members, that is perfectly fine. There are still ways to support your favorite Yu-Gi tuber. You guys can hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way you guys could stay up to date with what drops on this channel. But let's go ahead and discuss the ban list in the impending doom that's going to be coming here very soon. Let's talk about it. We're going to be talking about ban list predictions. It's been since December 9th when the last ban list dropped, and now we are going on to 4 months. So the ban list should be coming around soon, considering that we have 3 big events. We have one, and I think in Latin America, we have a team event in YCS Vegas this coming weekend, which I am going to be at. So if you see me, be sure to say hi. And then we have another event in Texas. So it's going to be a plethora of events. Fortunately, some events aren't going to have coverage. But considering all things, last time that they announced the ban list was at an event. We have 3 events going down. I'm certain that this ban list is going to be dropping here sometime soon. So I just wanted to get my thoughts and opinions out before the ban list drops. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some cards that are going to be coming back off the ban list that I don't think that they need to be on there. Obviously limited, semi-limited, and outright banned. So I want to start off with some cards that I do think that are okay to come off of the ban list. One of the first ones is going to be Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is a Link 1 monster that was used very well in the Snake Eyes strategy. However, considering how Snake Eyes is right now, I think it's perfectly fine for this card to come off. Other decks do have the ability to use it, and I'm sure that they wouldn't mind having it back. But one of the main reasons this was being used is that you normal something like Snake Eye Ash or Poplar, you could just link it off, get the body back with Poplar, or you could go ahead and avoid targeting negation with Linkuriboh. But considering that it is far less consistent to do those types of plays, I think Linkuriboh has a safe place to come back off the ban list. Snake Eyes is just practically dead with OSS being banned, and even though it is getting some support through like White Force and Azamina, it's not direct support. Even with all those new support cards and Azamina looking really powerful in some coming sets, I don't think it's enough to bring Snake Eyes back from the dead. So I think Linkuriboh is safe to come off. So the next card that I think would be perfectly fine to come off the ban list is going to be Ronin Tonin. Now, there are a couple reasons. One, I love frogs. They're super cool. I remember I played them early on with like Frog Monarchs, and I just thought they were the freaking sickest thing, especially with like Treeborn Frog. So sick. I used to love the combo. You'd like tribute off the Treeborn Frog in standby phase, it comes back, and then you use it again with enemy controller. Such a sick combo. But more recently, Ronin Tonin was being used in the Sprite strategy. Sprite strategy is very popular in my personal opinion, but it's not seeing any kind of like meta relevancy, considering that like Sprite Alpha is banned, and it's being overshadowed by the Raizio engine being a rank 2 theme archetype. Not that that deck is bad by any means, and not that it's not consistent, but I don't think you really need to have Ronin Tonin on there. And I understand it's not like a once per turn effect, all things considered. I do think that that deck, it did end up getting power crept, and the reason why is because some of the cards lock you very early on into rank 2 monsters, whereas Raizio, you could play with like another engine and it just works just fine. And on top of that, they go into back into the engine with Fiendsmith. You use your Fiendsmith combo, go back into the Raizio combo later on in that same combo, which is absurd. I do think it's fair to bring this card back. And plus, I'm a big fan of the frogs, so I am pushing the frog agenda, guys. So that's all I have for cards from coming off of the ban list. Now, cards that I would want to see get limited, or it would make sense to get limited, is Fiendsmith Tract. Very powerful card. This one Tract could transform one Lori into a Wave King Caesar, which is insane. And you're playing 6 copies of it because you could play 3 Tract and 3 Engraver because they both do the same thing. They search out that spell or trap, or is the spell. With that being said, being it to 1 when the engine first dropped for Fiendsmith, that's how they were playing it, with 1 track, because maybe they felt it a little too bricky. And again, there was not enough space because it was played with Snake Eyes. But now as the game progressed and people found a little bit more useful ways to play the engine, playing 2 was pretty much standard alongside with 3 Engraver. This 1 hit wouldn't necessarily kill the engine, but it would make it far less consistent and make it fair for other decks. The next card I wanted to talk about to be hit on the ban list, or just to be put to 1, is going to be Bonfire. Bonfire, I remember when that card came out in Maze, I forgot which Maze specifically, but people were hollering for it. That card was a $100 card, and understandably, right? It was being played in the probably one of the most strongest decks at the time, and fairly consistent, being Snake Eyes, 3 Ash, 3 Poplar, or 2 Poplar, 3 Bonfire, instant access. And it was being played in other archetypes like Centurion, which could Calamity lock you at the time, considering that at this point in time King Calamity is banned. You were still able to do it, and those were the 2 engines really using it. And it's generic. This card is just extremely powerful. There is a new card that got released, of Tachyon, that essentially will replace this card. And considering that card is a more restrictive version, and you go -1, because when you activate the card, you search the card and then you have to put a card back. So it does suck because you'll be using one, getting one, and then you still have to place another card back. So it's not as good as Bonfire because it's not as restrictive when in terms of searching. Bonfire just searches you any level 4 or lower pyro monster. It doesn't matter what attribute, it's just as long as it's a pyro and level 4 or lower, you're going to be able to add it. And then that's just kind of it. Because of that new support, I could see Bonfire getting hit to 1. Other reason that I do think it's going to get hit to 1 is that it's being played in the best deck right now. Now, banning Bonfire wouldn't be fair to other archetypes that use it, given there's not many. The only ones I could really think of are Ashton and Centurion. But I think it'd be a good way to tone down the power level of Fiendsmith Ryzeo, because that's the deck that's really using it. More specifically, the Ryzeo side of things. Now, this one is a little bit of a hot take, and I don't see it happening, but this is definitely something that I could see happen. Is Malice and Underground being hit. Now, not to say that Malice by itself is a very powerful engine, but they have very powerful cards that they can play, which make it really difficult to interact with that deck, like Shifter. But one card that I could really see being hit later on, or even on this ban list, is Malice and Underground. It banishes from the deck, so it makes it really difficult to interact with. And on top of that, it's a deck that really can't be interacted with because not a lot of cards could stop things that are banishing. Way to stop that deck is like with Effect Veiler, by negating the effects on field, and maybe Infinite Impermanence, maybe not so much Effect Veiler because sometimes they'll activate Shifter. And the real only way to stop Malice and Underground is removing the card from play when they first activate it. I mean, going second, there's not a real way to really stop that from going on once they activate it. Again, I do think it's a little bit too early for that card to get hit, but I could understand it, that card does get hit later on, or even on this ban list. For the things that I just mentioned. Now that's it for the limited list. Let's talk about semi-limited, and I only have 1 card on this part. I think something that the whole community is really crying for at the moment is toning down the power level of Ryzeo Fiendsmith, and I think that's the focal point that Konami should really approach this coming ban list with. But hitting Engraver to 2 now doesn't outright kill the deck, makes it a lot less consistent and a lot more fair for other decks, and alongside with the hit subtract, it would really bring down that power level, because what people are doing now is that they'll play their engine Ryzeo, and then if they do get stopped there, then they could just activate Tractor Engraver and then go to a Desiree or a Wave King Caesar, which is absolutely insane. And every deck could do that. Now, that does sound healthy on paper, but when you're playing the best deck that has 12, 14 starters, not including the Engraver stuff, makes it so much more powerful. So I think that's how Konami should definitely approach it. It doesn't kill the deck, considering when people do go into game 2 and 3 and they're playing the Fiendsmith engine, they usually just side out 1 Engraver, and then that way they play 2. Given Bystials are there to check the deck, and they do end up banning or banishing the engravers when they try to summon. Again, wouldn't outright kill it, but I think it's a good way to really check the deck at the moment. That is it for semi-limited. Let's go ahead and talk about banned. I only have one real banned card, and that is going to be Shifter. I think Shifter is a very useful hand trap for obvious reasons. Banishes everything. And it's really powerful in what could potentially be the next best deck after the ban list that's up and coming. But Shifter just is a card that turns off the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! For example, Forbidden Droplet Effect, Veiler, Drool. Cards like that need to be sent to the graveyard. Plethora of other cards that need to be sent specifically to the graveyard to activate. Shifter's a card that just turns off that whole mechanic. It could be a little bit annoying, but it relatively just shuts down decks with just one move, and then allowing that same card to be used in a deck that could OTK you with relative ease is a little annoying. This card has been probably the bane of a lot of players. A lot of the community wants this card banned. I think this is something comparatively to Mystic Mind back when everyone wanted that card banned, and for good reason, right? It was a stall deck, stall card, and definitely different categories in terms of power level, but I definitely think it's the right move to make. For example, if all these bans do come in for the Fiendsmith and Raziel that we're anticipating, if this card does go unchecked, it's going to be Malice. It's going to be on top of everything. Now, I don't think outright it would probably be the sole reason why Malice would be the best, but it would definitely help out the reason to believe that that deck would be the best. But that's the only card that I have on my ban list. Now, let's talk about some of my thoughts on how I approached when I was making this list and how it came to my ideas. My overall thoughts: I personally think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in a very healthy place right now. It goes without saying, Raziel Fiendsmith is probably the best deck in the format and the most played. But even with all those things being said, it's not suffocating where you can't play other decks. You have other archetypes or other strategies that you can play. For example, you got Malice, and then you got the new Blue Eyes that everyone's really excited for. So I do think that the game right now is in a good place. Is it fair for Fiendsmith Raziel to be at the power level that they're at and as consistent as they're at and getting even more support or even indirect support with 7th Tachyon? Probably not. And I think that's the big thing that Konami should take into consideration, is what the players are wanting. Fiendsmith Raziel is just too powerful compared to the other decks. And even though it isn't suffocating to a point, it still doesn't mean, it's still really hard to play through 3-4 material detonator and then being able to be brought back with Eclipse Twins. I definitely think that Konami should approach this and in a light way, and then the next ban list allow players to enjoy their Raziels, because those are new cards that just came out in crossover breakers. And let them enjoy that archetype before it gets butchered or maybe put into place with the up and coming ban list after the one that we're anticipating to get here in a couple of days. But those are my thoughts and opinions, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know if you agree with me. If you don't agree with me, let me know the cards that you're wanting to get hit on that ban list, or what you hope and pray to come off. I personally think that Shifter's a pipe dream. It's like a fever dream. It's never gonna get hit, but I think for the reasons that I explained is a good reason for it to get hit. But yeah, let me know in the comment section, guys. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. YCS Las Vegas, be sure to say hi to me. I'll check you guys on the next one. My name is Windsor, and I'll check you guys out later. Peace out, everyone.